My mom lied about why her and my dad split up, and I hate her so much. 2 months ago, I found out my fiancée was cheating on me for most of our relationship. When I confronted her, she kept saying that her cheating was my fault because she was emotionally neglected and that she felt so alone. And I'm not joking, I've just not felt secure since my dad died. She kept insisting that we could work it out while I was packing, crying that if I could just see that this wasn't all her fault and stop being hard-headed and realize she isn't a monster, blah blah blah. I barely spared the time to tell her that she was wrong and that she is a monster, and I hope she remembers it forever and her cutting me off the whole time. Well, I just recently told my mother what happened. I had just been saying that we broke up and I didn't want to talk about it. Well, as soon as I started talking about her excuses, she started making faces and looking away. Finally, I asked her if she had something to say, and she said something like, "Well, you do work a lot, and that people do weird things when they're grieving." I asked her if she was really excusing what she did, and my mother then rolled her eyes and said that it wasn't that big of a deal. At which point I said that it is a big deal, that it is a horrific thing to do to someone, and that I can't imagine doing something so scummy to someone I love. And that's when she said, "You're starting to sound like your father." At which point I asked her what the heck she means by that. See, growing up, she had implied that my father had been controlling or possessive, and that caused them to drift apart. At that point, she looked pretty shocked and said that she was just saying I sounded like him. At which point I left. I went to see my father, who had a very distant relationship with me growing up, because I thought he was a controlling a-hole to my mom, and I didn't want to be around him. We talked all night long, and he explained with some hesitation what really happened. My mother had cheated on him, a lot, and when he found out, she used all the excuses my ex did and more, including bringing up that if he divorced her, he would be forcing me to grow up in a broken home over a mistake. He did anyway, and she told him that if he ever told me the truth, she would say he was a liar and would take him to court to make sure he wouldn't even get visitation. My dad believed her because he grew up with an abusive mother, and he never thought I would believe him anyway because I was such a mama's boy when I was young. Since then, I have only spoken to my mother one time, to tell her that I am disgusted by her and I will not be speaking to her again because I cannot stand to have someone like her near me. Frankly, I know I seem angry. I am. I grew up believing my father was borderline abusive and that my mother was this saintly woman who never hurt anyone. She's fake. She keeps sending messages through other friends and family who promptly get blocked that what happened between my father and her has nothing to do with me, and that he was lying and emotionally abusive, which means that not only was it okay that she acted like trash, but that I suck for not being okay with it. And I know maybe you think I suck too, but I can't care. If your advice is let it go, keep it to yourself. If not, it's welcome. How do you let go the fact your mother lied to you about your father so much and for so long? These lies caused you to distance yourself from your father and affected your perception of who your father was. Your mom is a cheater, liar, and an abuser, and that is going to take some time to process and work through. At the same time, you have to work through that your fiancé did the same thing too. These two incidents are so similar that it's going to be difficult to separate the issues. At least with the ex, you can walk away from her completely. Your mom showing empathy for your ex must have blown your mind, especially when the truth came out from your dad. Seriously, get some therapy to help process this double whammy. The positive is that you and your dad are going to be closer and develop a much deeper relationship. I did notice your mom went from your dad was controlling to emotionally abusive, which is code for he didn't give me enough attention. Good luck, and don't hate all women because of these emotionally selfish women. What gets me the most is that mom didn't just cheat on her husband repeatedly, lie to OP for so long, and ruin their relationship with dad for years. Her child got cheated on by someone who was supposed to be his future wife. He came to her for support, and she defended the cheater and downplayed OP's feelings of betrayal. That is so many layers of awful, remorseless behavior. Did her moral compass get chucked through the wardrobe to Narnia? I can't fathom being so entitled and emotionless that she'd rather out herself than comfort her child. From this woman, OP, you deserve better. You don't suck. You did the right thing cutting her and the cheating fiancé off. I hope you can reconnect with your dad and fix what she took from you. Yes, she feels like she has to. Otherwise, she would have to accept that her cheating and lying was horrible, and that's not gonna happen. She feels so entitled to being the victim that she would rather throw OP's feelings under the bus than accept any kind of blame for her behavior. It's vile to see that Opie's father would rather be seen as the bad person than not seeing his son. Meanwhile, Opie's mother would rather be a horrible mother than take accountability for her cheating. This is far more common than you realize. I have a half-brother out there that believes my father was an abusive man that abandoned him. The reality is that my father was violated. He woke up as he was being forced. She got pregnant from that crime and then collected child support, which was her goal all along. Dude, seriously. One of my closest friends last year reconnected with his dad, who he thought was a physically abusive person. Me and another friend actually encouraged him not to meet his dad because of what we thought of the dude. Turns out, his mom made everything up about him and admitted it. They have a strained relationship now, and his dad smothers him with attention to make up for the 20 years he's been out of his kid's life. It was a huge wake-up call. I'm so sorry to read this happen to you. The only tiny bit of good at this point to come out of it is that you and your dad are talking again. I hope things get better for you from now on. Yeah, this happened last weekend, and instead of couch surfing, which I had been since I left the apartment I had with my ex, I'm sleeping in my dad's spare room. He and his wife seem over the moon that I'm here. My sisters grew up with my single mom, while I grew up with my single dad. And now I know why. My parents are separated since I can remember, and they had 3 children including me, my 2 older sisters, and me as the only boy. My father made me feel loved, and he always made sure I know that. But I never understood why he was so affectionate and loving with me. He got my sisters to visit us every weekend because he still wanted to be there for them. But he never was as affectionate with them as he was with me. Like cuddling, reading bedtime stories, playing with me. That's not what he did with them when they visited us. It was more superficial, but he was still loving them. Unlike most siblings, we actually had a good bond with each other. But for some reason we never visited mom, and she also never visited us or asked for my dad to bring me. I was raised like that, practically not knowing my mom at all. I just knew she existed and that my sisters lived with her. I found out why our family was like that when I went to the attic to look for something I thought I might have put there. I found the DVDs, where my dad has captured all big moments of our life. He showed me these DVDs a few times. There were 3 DVDs in an old and kind of dusty case. I remembered that every time he showed me these DVDs, he was skipping a specific moment on DVD 1. And I was curious why he didn't want to show me that. I was still looking around for what I was looking for, but took the DVD with me and watched it. When it got to the scene my dad used to skip, it showed a gender reveal party with my pregnant mom and my father, who had these gender reveal smoke bombs in their hands. And when the blue smoke came out, my father went off and was happy, while my mom's facial expression went from excitement to pure disappointment. I was confused but kept watching. She then threw the smoke bomb away, ran into the house behind them, and slammed the door angrily. My father's look turned from excited to worried, and he told the people to stop recording. Then the scene skipped. Now I knew why he didn't want me to see this. I asked about it, and I could tell he felt guilty, and he told me everything. He said that my mom wanted to have 3 girls, and she told him that she will not change her mind. He said they divorced because my mom wanted to set me up for adoption and try for a 3rd girl, and my dad didn't want that. She even told him that if her pregnancy wasn't so advanced already, that she would have thought about aborting me. He told me that he wanted to make sure I don't feel less, because my sisters had the privilege of growing up with both parents. That's why he made sure to give me extra attention and to always be there for me. I love my dad, but this was still gut-wrenching and a hard pill for me to swallow. He asked if I was fine, and I told him I was, but when I got upstairs, I was heavily suppressing tears. I couldn't understand why my mom didn't want me. Like, it's okay to be disappointed if your child doesn't have the gender you would have wanted, but setting me up for adoption, or worse, thinking about abortion because of it, is messed up. I'm sorry to read this. It is a lot to deal with. Remember that no matter what your mom thinks or feels, you are here. You were born, you grew up. You are a person, and people love you and care about you. Go from there. Don't stay in the past. We all make our own choices, so make yours based on the fact that you were, and are, loved and cared for. Yeah, but it feels horrible to know you're the only child your mother despises. She obviously has an issue with males. It wasn't you in particular, it was just you were a male. Parents like that stay together end up being very abused both mentally and physically, just because you are male. So your father did the best thing by taking you away from that possibility. Of course it hurts, but try to think, thank God I missed that bullet. I am so sorry it ended up this way. You just grow up to be an amazing man, brother to your sisters, eventually an uncle maybe, and an amazing son to your father. Ask your dad about seeing a counselor so you can discuss this without worrying about hurting your dad's feelings, and you can be totally open and honest. Good luck. I am so sorry, Opie. I'm glad that at least you have your dad to treat you well. Thank you. I know he's there for me. Your egg donor is literally insane. I feel worse for your sisters that they grew up with someone like that. Wow. Your mom is broken, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Any boy she had, she would have treated the same. Some people just shouldn't have children. You could be the president or the second coming of Christ, and she'd still be who she is. My husband has had to accept this about his father. He grew up with him, but his dad just isn't cut out for children. He spent his days in his office and avoided him like the plague. He has not once held any of our babies, ever. It used to kill my husband until I said what I wrote here, that he should have never had kids. Nothing anyone can do or say to change who they are inside, Opie. I'm starting to hate my husband because of his relationship with our daughter. Before I even got pregnant, my husband and I made the decision that he would be a stay-at-home dad, and I would work. This is what both of us wanted, and what would work the best considering I made a lot more than him. I was on bed rest for the last couple weeks of my pregnancy, and because of this I had to go back to work as soon as I was cleared 6 weeks postpartum. Everything was great with the baby, until I had to go back to work. I had to stop nursing because I was gone all day at work, and she eventually weaned off me after only 2 weeks of bottle feeds when I wasn't there. During the week, I'm able to see her for about 20 minutes awake before I leave for work in the morning, and she's already sleeping by the time I get home in the evening. At night, my husband insists on being the one to get up every time because he's worried about me getting enough sleep, even though I tell him I'd rather spend time with our daughter and be tired. But it doesn't really matter because she cries whenever I hold her. She won't take the bottle when I try to feed her. I can't comfort her back to sleep in the night. She's completely uninterested in playing unless it's with her dad. I physically cannot hold her without her screaming crying. Since I've been back at work, we've been alone together maybe 4 times. And every single time she has cried the entire time her dad wasn't there. I literally know nothing about her, and it seems like my husband can read her mind. He knows what her different cries mean when I don't even notice a difference. She smiles and laughs at him. She has never cried when he picks her up or holds her. I am her mother. I am also her parent. I should be doing these things. But she doesn't even know who I am, and it hurts so badly. I'm not regretting our agreement of him being at home with her. I just wish I could spend more time with her and wish that she actually liked me. Or just at least her not crying whenever he's not there. He tries to make me feel better by telling me how bad it is when she spits up on him or leaking poopy diapers and things like that. But I want that. I want to be spat up on and shat on if that meant my baby actually liked me. He sends me pictures and videos of her all day when I'm at work, but it honestly just makes me mad that I'm the one who gave birth to her and all she does is cry at me. I can't even hold my own creation. I'm grateful that he's such a good father to her, but I wish so badly for that to be me. It sounds like you need more time to bond with your daughter, but it doesn't sound fair to hate your husband when he's being a good father. I agree. Every time you see them playing, join them. When your husband starts changing her, take over. Small stuff. She will see you love and care for her in time. Plus, it sounds like you have a great partner in your husband. And hating him for this, no matter how much she tries to hide it, will not only hurt him, but it will also eventually come out in her words, actions, behaviors, and lead to the downfall of the marriage. Your baby sounds very young, and you sound like you might be dealing with postpartum. As simple as this sounds, it's just the truth. You need more time with her. You must insist to feed her at night. Your husband can help facilitate the feedings, but you obviously need to be feeding her for you. Your husband needs to give you the baby to be with her, even if she's crying. And you will learn how to bounce her, and walk her, and feed her. I say this being the stay-at-home mom who facilitates my husband to bond with our children. The first was the roughest for him, and absolutely none of the parenting came naturally to him. But I was there helping in every way I could. Your husband needs to do the same. He needs to help you bond with your daughter. I went through something similar with my daughter. I was doing an 8-hour internship, plus my 8-hour workday, 6 weeks post-birth. So like your daughter, mine also got extremely attached to my husband. I will say it may get worse before it gets better. I'll never forget coming home and sitting next to her when she was 8-ish months on the couch while she was sitting next to him. She turned and looked at me and grunted unhappily at my presence. As if to say, "Go away, my daddy, not yours." I also really struggled with same emotions you're experiencing, but it does get better as they get older. She is 4 now, and full of love for both of us. But it didn't turn around for me until she was 2, and I made an enormous effort to play with her as much as she'd allow. Sending positive energy your way. Hang in there. She's feeling your frustrated energy, and that is what makes her cry. When I have a bad day at work, and even if I manage to keep outwardly calm and collected, my 3-year-old son still knows if I had a terrible day, and tries to make me feel better. Usually with hugs and extra I love yous. When he was a newborn and he picked up on my frustration, he would just stare at me hard like he was trying to figure out what was going on. Kids are so much more sensitive and aware than we give them credit for.